Hello everyone and welcome back to Reading with Beck. I'm Beck Tillman and this is the podcast where we dive deep into books that touch our hearts, challenge our minds, and sometimes, just sometimes, give us exactly the comfort we need. Today, on the second episode, I'm so excited to talk about a book that's been on my radar for quite some time. It's been recommended to me by so many people, and I finally got my hands on it through a book swap with a friend. We're discussing Welcome to Hyunam-dong Bookshop by Korean author Hwang Bo-reum. Now, why this book and why now? Well, that time when I just finished reading The Lantern of Lost Memories, and I was in the mood for something gentle, something cozy. And let me tell you, this book delivered exactly that. The premise alone was intriguing enough. A woman who leaves her burnout-inducing career to open a small bookshop in Seoul. As someone who's felt the weight of work exhaustion, this immediately spoke to me. So grab your coffee or tea, get comfortable, and let's talk about this beautiful, heartwarming novel that feels like a warm hug on a cold day. Let's start with the basics. Welcome to Hyunam-dong Bookshop was written by Hwang Bo-reum and translated into English by Shana Tan. It's a contemporary Korean fiction novel, specifically slice of life genre, and it was originally published in South Korea before being translated for international readers. The story follows Youngju, our protagonist, who has reached a breaking point. She's burned out from her corporate career, recently divorced and feeling completely lost. But instead of spiraling further, she makes a bold decision. She's going to pursue her childhood dream of owning a bookshop. And that's exactly what she does. Youngju opens a small bookshop in Hyunam-dong, a neighborhood in Seoul, and what begins as one woman's attempt to find peace transforms into something much bigger. The bookshop becomes a sanctuary not just for Youngju, but for a collection of lost souls who wander through its doors. We meet various characters: women in unhappy marriages, a lost teenager, enthusiastic book lovers, visiting authors, a lonely barista, and more. Without giving away spoilers, this is a story about second chances, community, healing through literature, and the courage it takes to start over. It's quiet, it's gentle, but it's also deeply meaningful in its exploration of what it means to survive as an adult in our modern world. Okay, so let me tell you about my experience reading this book because honestly, it was pretty special. First of all, and I love that I did this, I read the entire book in less than a week, and every single reading session was accompanied by lo-fi music in the background. I wanted to create that atmosphere of being inside a calm, cozy bookshop, and it worked perfectly. I genuinely felt transported into Youngju's world. The writing style is incredibly accessible and comforting. Hwang Bo-reum has this way of writing that just flows beautifully. It's easy to digest, never pretentious, and always warm. I never struggled with pacing or felt bored. Every scene in the bookshop, every interaction between characters, felt purposeful and engaging. What really drew me in was how well written every character is. I mean, every single person in this book felt like someone I could know in real life, someone I'd want to be friends with. They're all genuinely good people, and that's refreshing, you know? Sometimes you read books where everyone is complicated and morally gray, and that's fine, but other times you just need to read about good people trying their best, and that's what this book offers. I cried and smiled multiple times while reading this. The emotional moments hit hard, but never in a manipulative way. It was authentic. The ending gave me such a sense of closure and satisfaction. I wasn't left hanging or frustrated, which honestly, after reading so many books with ambiguous endings, felt like a gift. After finishing the book, I found myself deeply sympathizing with Youngju. She's such a good soul, but she's so hard on herself, and I think many of us can relate to that. We're often our own worst critics. Now let's get into the heart of this book, the themes, the characters, and what makes it resonate so deeply. Let's talk about burnout and second chances first, because that's really the foundation of this story. Youngju's decision to leave her career and open a bookshop isn't portrayed as some glamorous, Instagram-worthy life change. The book is realistic about the fear, the uncertainty, and the bravery it takes to start over. In our culture that glorifies hustle and productivity, Youngju's choice to prioritize her well-being over societal expectations is quietly radical. Now, while I sympathized with Youngju's journey, the character I personally resonated with most was Sungwoo. His perspective on working, how he works hard but suffers from additional burdens that take a toll on all his relationships and himself, that hit really close to home for me. It's this quiet suffering that so many of us experience but don't talk about. We work diligently, we meet expectations, but we're slowly being eroded from the inside. The book doesn't offer easy solutions to this, and I appreciate that honesty. Okay, if you haven't read the book yet and want to go in completely fresh, you might want to skip ahead for a few minutes. I'm going to talk about some specific character moments and relationships that are pretty significant to the plot. Spoiler warning here. Still with me? Good. One of the most emotionally powerful moments for me was the reunion between Minjun and his best friend from college, Sangchul. Watching their friendship rekindle after years apart, seeing them navigate their adult lives while still maintaining that deep connection, it made me remember all my college close friends. Friendship growth and character development has always been my weakness in literature, and Hwang Bo-reum absolutely delivers on this. The same goes for the friendship between Jimmy, Yangju, and Youngsu. Watching these three women support each other, challenge each other, and grow together was beautiful. The book shows how women can heal together, how they can create a chosen family in a world that often isolates us. Okay, this is the end of the light spoilers. Beyond the individual character arcs, this book opened up so many insights about adult friendships and responsibility. One theme that really struck me was how we should act when we know something is wrong with our friends. The approaches shown in the book are all very mature. There's no dramatic interventions or forced confrontations. Instead, there's patience, there's listening, there's showing up consistently. It's a more realistic portrayal of how healing actually happens in real life. The book also doesn't shy away from the difficulty of being an adult. We don't always have clear answers on everything, yet we continue to survive each day. That acknowledgement felt validating. There's no neat solution presented, no 5-step guide to fixing your life. Just people trying their best with incomplete information, which is pretty much all any of us can do. The bookshop itself functions as more than just a setting, it's almost a character in its own right. It becomes this haven for lost souls, a place to rest and heal. And I think that's what makes this book special. It argues that sometimes we need spaces and communities that aren't about productivity or achievement, but simply about existing and healing together. If you're wondering whether this book is for you, let me give you some context and comparisons. Welcome to Hyunam-dong Bookshop, fits beautifully into the cozy, slice-of-life contemporary fiction genre. If you've read and loved books like Days at the Murasaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagasawa, this will absolutely appeal to you. It has that same gentle quality, that same focus on healing and second chances. For fans of Korean literature, this sits alongside authors like Kim Ji-young and Cho Nam-ju in its exploration of women's experiences in modern Korean society, but with a much softer, more hopeful tone. It's less about systemic critique and more about individual healing, though it doesn't ignore the social pressures that lead to burnout. Some critics have noted that the book can feel formulaic or cliched, full of references to perfect coffee, meditation, and self-help philosophy. And I get that criticism. If you're looking for something edgy or subversive, this isn't it. But I'd argue that sometimes we need comfort reads, we need stories that feel like warm tea on a rainy day, and there's nothing wrong with that. This book is part of a larger trend in translated Korean fiction that focuses on everyday life, quiet struggles, and small moments of beauty. If you're interested in exploring more Korean contemporary fiction, this is an accessible entry point. So, final thoughts. Would I recommend Welcome to Hyunam-dong Bookshop? Absolutely yes. 5 out of 5 stars from me. But let me be specific about who I think would love this book. If you feel like you're a kid in adult's clothing, constantly overwhelmed by responsibilities you're not sure you're equipped to handle, read this book. If you're feeling tired of everyday routines, stuck in a cycle of work and exhaustion with no clear way out, read this book. If you love books and coffee and have ever fantasized about running away to open your own cozy bookshop, definitely read this book. If you're going through a career transition, dealing with burnout, or questioning your life choices, this book will comfort you. And honestly, if you just need something gentle and healing right now, something that reminds you that good people exist and that it's never too late to start over, please pick this up. This isn't a book that will challenge you or push you out of your comfort zone. It won't keep you up at night with plot twists or complex mysteries. But it will wrap you in warmth, it will make you feel less alone, and it will remind you that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply be gentle with ourselves and others. As for what I'm reading next, I'm actually diving into Indonesian literature called Satu Januari, or January 1st by Pujangga Lama, which is completely different in tone, so stay tuned for that review. Thank you so much for listening to Reading with Beck today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your book-loving friends. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, or WhatsApp channel for anything. Until next time, keep reading, keep healing, and remember, it's never too late to start your own story.